Hello, and a good morning, good afternoon, and a very good evening to you, the good and wonderful people of the tube. Hope today, hope you're feeling grand and all is well in your world. Hello, everybody. Today, people of the tube, it's shootout time between the Mark 1 Boss Katana 50, which is down there, and the Gen 3. I don't have a Generation 2 Katana to compare, so we're literally going from like one end of the spectrum to the other, the first to the most current. So this is going to be very interesting, I think. I'm very, very curious about this one. Your same mic, you're going to use the same guitar, same lead, same mic placement, which is always just off the dust cover. The dust cover's like here. I always have the speaker, the mic just offset of the dust cover on the speaker. And what we're going to do is this is an amp of 1 trillion tones. So if I was to compare every little kind of like nook and cranny of it, we'd be here for ever. My life wouldn't last long enough, let's just put it that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for some of my favourite sounds. So I'm going to use the Clean channel to get a really kind of like sparkly, kind of like Jeff Buckley-esque Fender Clean kind of sound. And then we're going to hear a John Frusciante Dirty Clean sound. Then we're going to hear like a Jimi Hendrix kind of like broken up kind of blues tone. And then we're going to hear full out distortion on the brown mode. So I'm going to use obviously the Clean channel, Clean voicing for Clean. For the John Frusciante tone, it'll be the brown mode with the gain turned all the way down. For the Jimi Hendrix one, it'll be the lead mode. And then for the full out distortion, it'll be the brown mode again. I'm not going to use any of the effects. The only thing that's going to be on is the reverb. And I'm going to put that at 9 o'clock. That's it. So it will just be about audible, but not really. I don't want to laden down the sound with loads of reverb, but I want a little bit just so you can kind of like get a bit of space in there. No effects though. I just want to hear the core sound of the amp. I don't, this isn't, to me, this shootout isn't about, like, how better are the effects in the Mark 1 to the Generation 3. It's not about that. It's about what's the difference in, like, overall tonality of the amp. Is this speaker better than the speaker in the original? Does this sound better? Does it sound worse? Which one? We're going to find out today, people of YouTube. It's going to be very interesting. And, like I say, as usual, I want to hear your opinions in the comment section below once you've heard the thingies. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So we've got 4 sounds. So again, like really, really clean, Jeff Buckley kind of clean. John Frusciante Dirty Clean, kind of like, that kind of crunchy kind of thing. Jimi Hendrix, kind of like bluesy, kind of overdriven kind of sound. And then a full-out distortion. So we've got those 4 sounds. We're going to start with the Gen 3. The normal way would be to start with the Generation 1 Katana, but I'm not going to. I'm going to flip it. So we're going to start with the Gen 3. So the first thing you hear on this one is Clean. So this Clean, Generation 1 Clean, this John Frusciante, that John Frusciante, this one Jimi Hendrix, that one Jimi Hendrix, this one full out distortion, that one full out distortion. And I'm going to go and listen. I'm going to let you know what I think at the end. And again, like I say, I want to hear what you think afterwards as well. So anyway, without further ado, let's get going. Oh, and we're going to be using the Oswald John Mark 3 Strat today. So, yeah, no pedals as well. So if anybody asks what pedals, there isn't any. And again, like I say, reverb's really low. So curious. Okay, we were tube. So that didn't take me long listening back to these two amps side by side to know which one I prefer. And the winner for me, drum roll please, is the Gen 3. The Mark 1 sounds amazing still. I really still have... This amp, this is my first ever Katana. This is my first ever foray into Katanas. And not only did it blow my mind then, Katanas are still blowing my mind years later. I live streamed me playing through this for the first time, and I couldn't believe it. And I've used this one a lot live. I've used this one a lot for recording. I used it live. I think I recorded Duke's Deluded Wicked Game with this amp, if I remember correctly. But hearing them side by side, the Gen 3, the Mark 3, I'm going to call it the Mark 3, I prefer that, just sounds amazing. It really does. And there's a question. Do you prefer Gen or do you prefer Mark? Anyway. But yeah, there's a very... Hearing them back to back, there's a very... I'm not going to say unpleasant, because it's not unpleasant, but there's a very strong mid-range with the Mark 1. And I believe that's its speaker. Not necessarily the amp. I mean, there is something I would really love to do, which I'll talk about in a bit. But there's a real strong mid-range kind of growly, barky, grindy sound with this one. Also, if you watched my review on the Gen 3 here, the Mark 1 3 there, this one, the new one, if you watch my review on this one, I spoke in that one briefly about a frequency that's in the Mark 1 that always bugged me. And that isn't there in the Mark 3. As soon as I plugged in the Mark 1 today, especially on distortion, you hear it more in the brown mode. You can hear it. Whereas on this one, it isn't there. It doesn't have that frequency. And there's some frequencies in the Mark 1 that they kind of bump into each other. They're very clumsy and they kind of like bash into each other and don't really know what they're doing. Whereas the Mark 3 doesn't really have that. It's a lot more clear, clean and concise with its sound. It sounds amazing. And again, it's just the clarity of sound with this one over this one that blows my mind. What I would love to do, people with Tube, I can't because this is only on loan to me from Boss. I can't go ripping the screws and speakers out of the thing. But I would love to put a Generation 3 speaker in the Mark 1 to see if it's the speaker that holds this amp back. Because, as we all know, the speaker that you run your amp into can make or break your amp. It's the most important part of the amplifier. It's why I had a real big problem with Orange when they released the CR120 with the Orange compact cabs, the Voice of the World speakers. Some people like them. I thought they were garbage because as soon as you ran this through G1275s, my favourite speaker, or Greenbacks or anything else, this amp sounded way better, in my opinion. It just came alive. Whereas running it through the Voice of the World speakers that came inside this cab, which I don't have anymore, just hindered the amp. Give it a really weird waspy content that wasn't actually in the amp. It was the speakers doing that. And I would be very curious to know. Like I say, I can't do that because I say this is on loan to me. This isn't mine to start ripping it apart. But what does that speaker sound like in here, and what does this speaker sound like in there? You know, would that make a difference? It'd be very interesting to know. Anyway, as far as it goes right now, the Gen 3 has my vote. I love this amp, and I will forever love this amp, and I will never ever sell this amp because of this amp. Really, this one to me. This amp, the Mark 1 Boss Katana, changed the world of amps, in my opinion. I know there's things like the Axe Effects and the Kemper, but for budget-friendly, amazing, versatile, giggable, transportable amp, this changes. I do believe that the Boss Katana is a historical amp. It's up there to me. Again, this is just my opinion. The Boss Katana is up there with the Marshall Plexi and the Fender Bassman and the Mesa Boogie dual rectifier and all that kind of thing. When Boss made these, something happened. And no, they're not paying me to say that. I actually, honestly, am saying this. And if you don't believe that, I don't really care, because this is my opinion. The Boss Katana's changed things. It really has. And again, when I first plugged into that, my brain was blown. When I plugged into this, I was even more blown away. I didn't know at the time of me first plugging into this one how much different this was to this. This video has cleared that up. Good lord. I love the new pushed setting on this amp as well. That is a fantastic sound. And it's different. You can't really... You kind of can get that sound out of Mark 1, but not really. It doesn't really kind of get to that kind of territory. But you can get close, not quite. But Boss, how they just keep refining this thing, which I didn't even know was possible, you know, blows my mind. It really does. It's not the same amp. It's the same amp, but it's not the same amp. You know, this one sounds different to this one. It's, you know... These things are just absolute game changers. They really are. Like I said, the only thing that the Generation 3 needs is the little kickstand that's under here, so you can pivot the amp back. So you can do that. This one doesn't have that. But I've got to be honest, people of the tube, but if, like, I had this, I'd probably just like take the foot off the one I wasn't using and put it on there. I don't know. Anyway, blown away. People of the tube, comment section, let me know your thoughts, please. I need to know your thoughts on this as well. Which one did you prefer? Did you prefer the Mark 1 or the Mark 3? And why? Let me know in the comment section below. Was it the more barky mid-range that this thing had, or the clearer sound of this one? What was it? You know, what and why? Let me know in the comment section below. But yeah, I'm blown away. Boss, what are you doing to me? What are you actually doing to me? Like I say, there's enough volume in this thing to gig with. You could stun a donkey at 50 paces with this thing. I have yet to get the volume above 9 o'clock. It's outrageous. Again, that's another thing. I don't understand how they've made it so loud but so small. But when you play through it, it sounds like one of these things. It's the only combo I've ever played through that makes me feel like I've got a half stack behind me. And I haven't. It's this little thing. Or my 100, which is just there behind me. Or my artist, or whatever. It's insane. It really is insane. Anyway, I'm going to stop gushing. But I'm a bit confused. But in a good way. It's not like, but I am just like, my confusion comes from, how do you make perfection better? How do you make that better? But you have, boss, you have. And I don't understand that one, but I love it nonetheless. Anyway. Thank you very much for watching, people of the tube. If you like this channel, please consider becoming a patron at Patreon. Links to that in the description box below, as well as links to my band and all sorts of other stuff on there as well. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. See you again. Let me know your thoughts, people of the tube, in the comment section below. I can't wait to read your comments on this one. See you later. Goodbye.